Hey guys, welcome back. Well, I've spent the last month flying the hell out of this 533 little flipper FPV frame, and I've had a ball. When I started doing this testing, there's two questions I wanted to answer. First of all, where does this frame fit into the 3.5-inch FPV landscape? I mean, what's its purpose? What's it best for? And secondly, I want to do a lot of motor and prop testing, different size motors and different props. So let's have a look at the flight edit. And in this flight edit, I've done my best attempt at doing cinematic flowing freestyle. Okay, so as you probably guessed, I think this frame is best suited for smooth flowing freestyle. Not bando bashing and not even aggressive freestyle, I think. And there's two reasons for this. The first one is the frame's durability. And the second one is actually how good it feels in flight. You know, how well balanced it is. So let's talk about the durability first, because, you know, it's not even the most important thing, but we need to talk about it here. So let's talk about it first and get that out of the way. So while I was filming that flight edit, I hit a palm branch and fell a couple of meters to the ground and broke the front arm. Okay, and to be honest, that was actually the 5th time I've crashed this drone. So I've been flying this drone a lot over the last month, and I've been doing a lot of freestyle with it, and not always cinematic freestyle, you know, like aggressive freestyle and things like that. And so that last crash was probably just the straw that broke the camel's back. And this arm has probably just been weakened by the crashes I've had previously, and then the last one just broke it. And just for reference, this frame comes with 3mm thick arms. And you know, I'm not calling this out as a design fault. You know, broken arms come with the territory when you're doing freestyle. I've had quads where I've actually, you know, flown them once or twice and broken an arm. So basically, 533 have just decided to go with 3mm arms on this quad. And that's fine, because it's not actually designed to be a bando basher anyway. But having said that, let's compare it to other frames in the 3.5-inch category and just see how it compares in terms of arm thickness. Okay, so here's a list of 3.5-inch frames on the market. And you can see with 3mm arms, the 533 little flipper is keeping company with some of the older frames on the market, like the Happy Model Crux 35 and the Diatone Roma 35. And interestingly, with the Quad Mule Siren, which is actually one of the more well-regarded frames on the market as well. And if we look at the frames that have got 3.5mm arms, we can see it's the Flyfish Volador, as well as the Darwin FPV Babyak. And from there, all the other frames on the market have got 4mm arms, and the Foxy Omega has actually got 5mm arms. Okay, so let's move on to flight performance. What sort of flight characteristics does this frame have? I mean, the whole premise of this design is that the center of thrust has been raised up to be in line with the center of mass, so it should have good flight performance. And it does. I mean, this frame is great. It flies just as good as any other 3.5-inch frame. And when it comes to the flight feel, the handling, I can tell you this frame actually does feel better than other 3.5-inch frames in some instances. I'll go into that a little bit later. So what I tried to do is I tried to compare this frame to other 3.5-inch frames that I've flown. And to be honest, when I do hard freestyle, with this frame, I can't tell the difference between this frame and another 3.5-inch frame, another good 3.5-inch frame doing hard freestyle. However, When I come to doing more smooth maneuvers and mixing in the yaw and the rudder, I can actually feel how this frame is a lot more responsive and a lot more easy to fly. Basically, it just feels more well balanced when I'm doing smooth flowing freestyle type maneuvers. But there's no scientific testing here. This is just me trying to explain how I feel when I fly this frame. But if there's anyone out there who's actually bought this frame as a bind and fly, or even you've gone and built it yourself and flown it, let us know what you think. What do you think about this high mounted motor position? Do you think it gives better performance? Is it more well balanced? I'd like to hear your opinions as well. Okay, so next let's talk about motor, prop and battery selection. So here's the combination I end up going with. And for the motors, I'm going with the Gemfan Speed X2. These are the 1804 ones at 34,000 kV. We've got Gemfan Hurricane 3520 props. And for the battery, we're going with the 4S 850 mAh battery. And of course, the frame is built as an X-style geometry. Okay, so there's the setup that I'm using for this quad. But my standard setup for a 3.5-inch quad is actually to use a 1604 size motor with HQ 3520 props. And of course the same 850 mAh 4S battery. And I actually set that up on this quad and flew it with that setup, and it's fine. So if you want to go with the 1604 size motor, then go ahead, that's perfectly good. But 533 is selling this quad with these 1804 size motors. So I wanted to have a look at these motors and find the best setup with these motors. Now these 1804 size motors, as well as the geometry of this frame, will actually allow you to swing a 3.6 inch prop. Now that's not something I'd recommend that you do with the 1604 size motor, but seeing we've got these 1804 size motors on, I thought I'd give it a try anyway and see how this 3.6 inch props go. So let's just compare the 3.6 inch props to the HQ 3.5 inch props and also the Gemfan 3.5 inch props as well. So here's the Gemfan 3630 prop, that's the 3.6 inch prop, and let's just compare that to some 3.5 inch props. So here's the Gemfan 3520 and the HQ 3520 as well. Now the length of a 3.6 inch blade is actually only 2.54 millimeters longer than a 3.5 inch blade. But if you have a look at the girth, the actual width of the blade, the surface area, and you compare that to the Gemfan 3520 or even the HQ 3520, you can see there's a lot more blade there, a lot more surface area. Now these 1804 size motors have got more than enough power to push these 3.6 inch props. But what I found from my testing was this. Having all that power is basically just crushing the battery. If you've got that power there, you tend to use it. And in the end, I end up getting about 2.5 to 3 minutes flight time. So in the end, it's not really about what motors are best for this frame. It's about what size battery is best for this frame. And for a 3.5 inch frame, the best size battery is something like this, a 4S 850 mAh battery. Okay, this is the weight you want to go with. But then you run 1804 size motors and allows you to run 3.6 inch props, and then you really should be going with a bigger battery like a 1050 or 1100 mAh battery, and it's like this vicious cycle. And at that stage, you might as well just buy yourself one of these, a dedicated 3.6 inch frame anyway. So I can't really recommend running 3.6 inch props. I mean, if you're happy with short flight times and crushing your battery, and if you're fine with that, and you just want to go fast, then that's fine. But I don't think 3.6 inch is the best way to go for this frame. Okay, so I did end up doing a lot of testing with 3.5 inch props. Now, the one I usually go for is the HQ 3520, but the one I went for this setup is the Gemfan one, the Gemfan 3520. If we put both the props up there and we compare them, you can see that the HQ prop is a much thinner prop. Okay, and that means on these motors, on these more powerful motors, I mean, this would be perfect for a 1604. But on these more powerful motors, this one just seems to spin up too fast. It just literally just pings to full throttle. Whereas this Gemfan one with a wider blade and a little bit more resistance, you get that sort of build up and a little bit more power as well. So in the end, I've gone for the Gemfan 3520 prop on this, and that's the best size prop, I think, and the best pitch prop for these 1804 size motors. So after doing a lot of testing, and I eventually settled on this combo, the 1804 size motors with the 3520 Gemfans, and this is what I did most of my flight testing on in the end. And really good, ballistic power, lots of speed, definitely not lacking in power at all. And I ended up getting about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes 45 seconds for a flight, which is very good. Okay, and last of all, let's just have a look at the frame and see how quiet it is. We've got some black box logs, so we'll have a look at a little bit of gyro data. Okay, so first let's have a look at the roll axis. So this is the unfiltered gyro data, and after filtering, then let's have a look at the pitch. So this is the unfiltered data for pitch, and then the filtered data for pitch, and then the unfiltered gyro for yaw, and then with filtering. Okay, so there we go. A nice quiet frame there. Nothing really to speak of as far as the frame resonance goes. You know, I don't get into black box logs that much. Betaflight these days does a great job at ironing out any sort of resonance issues and things with frames. So anyway, there we go. I've got some repairs to do. You've got some liking and subscribing to do. And I'll catch you next time. Happy flying.